Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus Community, we were to go racing with D-Class four-wheel drive cars at some of the smallest tracks in the game. Our first race was at the Rio mini circuit, and as you can imagine, the first few corners were really rather hectic, as 20-odd vehicles are trying to fit around, such a tiny circuit as this one. However, amazingly, on the most part, everyone survived this rather hectic opening lap. As we come towards the hairpin for the first time, there were lots of camper vans at the front. There's a little bit of bumping and nudging here and there, and a Delta's managed to find itself on the grass. But as we leave the hairpin, lots of cars were 2 and 3 wide throughout places on this opening lap, but they soon sorted themselves out at the front, and it was the camper vans that were leading the way. But as you can see, they were not exactly the easiest of vehicles to drive. The Subaru Brat briefly got himself to the lead. The campers were incredibly fast in a straight line. They were monumentally quick in a straight line, but very difficult to control through the corners. The Brat here, despite outbraking himself, runs very wide through the first corner, still has more than enough speed to keep it alongside the camper van that is now going to maintain that position. Still, the Brat's on the outside of this camper van. It's a Javelin is having a fight with a camper van at the back of this little group, and then they come to this small acceleration zone, and the camper has buggered off. The two camper vans behind the Subaru are wiggling all over the road, trying to fight for control, trying to get some grip. And again, the Brat gets a good run out of the final corner there, but is absolutely no match for the acceleration of that camper. For me, I'd gone for a four-wheel drive swapped Fiat 8V. Thought it'd be something interesting. Hadn't driven one before. I got caught up a little bit in the early laps, was trying to make my way through the field. My car very good under brakes. I was trying to make the most of it. Wasn't quite close enough to have a go at the Civic. The Civic, though, ran wide. I tried to get up the inside. Toyota tried to get up the inside of me, 3 wide on the exit of the hairpin. Then it comes to the straight line speed. Civic ever so slightly faster than my Fiat, although I was faster than Toyota as well. Down towards turn 1, I was going to have a big dive up the inside. But trying to get overtakes done around here was a little bit tricky. Again, we see the Honda here holding it around the outside. Muddy is then stuck out a little bit too wide. Can't quite keep his car alongside. There's enough grip in my Fiat. Chevy got himself into a little bit of trouble. I would take that position as well. You've got to be always opportunistic with your overtakes. You've got to go for them when you can, because there is just such a small circuit. While we did do some 20 laps around here, you've really got to make the most of the overtaking opportunities that you can. It's very easy to get stuck in traffic around a circuit like this, as this Lancia here was finding a little bit cooped up behind the other camper vans. They were definitely some of the most awkward vehicles to overtake, because you could see how much they're struggling around these corners. There is just absolutely no grip in them. The Delta here is around the outside of both of them. You get a little bit locked together as they come up towards the hairpin, but you can get your car alongside, it's fine. But when you come to this straight, the campers were so likely just to blast back past you. This time the Delta's managed to make a little bit of a gap to one of them, but it's not enough for both, as the hippie van comes flying back past. Can't quite get it stopped into the first corner, but if he can get it out of there all right, there's such acceleration in the Volkswagen, he can get back past Delta, and this made them incredibly difficult to overtake. I find myself trying to go around the outside of a camper. Unfortunately for the hippie van, a bit of lag would see his vehicle fired sideways, and that would drop him to the back of the group, although he would get going again. I didn't lose too much time, all the things considered. For me, I got myself for the latter half of the race very much locked in battle with a Ford Country Squire. Yes, a rather peculiar little matchup, this one. We were both catching the Cyclone that was ahead of us. I believe it might have sustained a bit of damage. Yeah, we were in a rather large battle here. The Ford quicker than me in a straight line, but the Fiat very good under brakes and pretty good through the corners as well. So we were just constantly swapping positions throughout the course of the lap. So we were around here. I would stay close, provided I didn't do anything silly on the power that would run down this kind of little back straight. Provided I was within sensible range, I could dive up the inside at the hairpin and get the place back every single lap. This went on, I don't know how many times we changed places. It went on an awful lot. This time around, though, I dove a little bit too much, ran wide on the exit. That was now giving the Ford a chance to get alongside a bit earlier down this start-finish straight up on the outside again. I'm trying to hold it around the outside here. The Fiat, though, just gets a little bit of a slide on as I bounce it across the curbs, and the Country Squire is going to get himself to the inside for this next corner. My Fiat was it could get a little bit oversteery if you weren't too careful, and that one there did cost me a fair bit. That slide, it just put me out of range of having a big dive. I could dive from a long way back in this Fiat. This time around, though, not quite close enough, but this little argument would continue on for the rest of the race between us in that fashion. At the front, and it was going to be one of the camper vans that was to take victory. Certainly a busy and chaotic race, with it only being about I think about 38-second lap around here. There was always something going on. You're always having to worry about lapping cars, or it was a hectic race. But the camper van kept it all together with just the stupid straight line speed of these vehicles. He would take victory over a Subaru Brat in second, and a Javelin that had a relatively quiet race in third. An interesting podium, certainly, for the first race. Next event, we would go to one of the smallest circuits, I think perhaps the smallest circuit on the game, the Long Beach West circuit. This one, I do like Long Beach. Tends to be quite a scary place going with versus community being a street circuit. However, got around the roundabout relatively well. For Long Beach, that's relatively well. That's a relatively good start. And Alpha did get himself on the roundabout, got a little bit stuck. There was the odd little bit of bumping here and there. But yeah, for Long Beach, it did relatively well at this first race. The Fiat we're following at the moment is trying to get up alongside of Plymouth. It's 3 wide into the roundabout. That's not a good place to be 3 wide. I mean, 2 wide is not really a good idea through there, but you can get away with it. 3 wide is a very silly idea, but somehow the Fiat and the Civic all made it through there cleanly, which is, yeah, that's well done, guys. There was a little bit of bumping on the wall, sure, but it's not an ideal place to be trying that manoeuvre. Now they're chasing down a Subaru, the Fiat's trying to get to the inside, the Hondas to the inside, and again we're almost going to go 3 wide. This time they wisely back out of that one a little bit. The Honda's going to find his way past on the inside of the Fiat. So the Honda's all over the curb, and we bounce over. There's a nasty curb on the inside there. Bounce over that curb will cause you all sorts of trouble. So in the end, he couldn't quite make that position stick. There was a big old train of cars going around this circuit, kind of forming a little bit behind the Plymouth. At this point, there's a Raptor, there's a Fiat getting up the inside. The Datsun eats too much curb. Datsun goes for a big tumble in front of the train, collects an Escort, and then we have, well, I'm not quite sure what the Alpha is trying to do to the poor little Datsun there, but yeah, curbs are dangerous, and certainly this is a bad place to have an accident. If you have an off at this circuit, because the walls are so close, it tends to be quite a spectacular one. So yeah, unfortunately, the Datsun going for a tumble did take out a fair few cars and scare the crap out of quite a few vehicles following them as well. As the race progressed, it was general chaos in this one. This Subaru was coming under fire from the Corvettes. There's an MX-5 in there. There's a little Fiat as well, having a look, trying to get round or trying to defend, I think, from the MX-5. The Corvette got himself up alongside and past the Subaru, but runs across the curves a bit, gets the back end out sliding. That's put him slow down this start finish straight. The Fiat was having a look at maybe even making it 3 wide. Corvette runs a little bit too deep, as does the Fiat. Now the MX-5 is going to kind of have a little dive, I think a little bit of lag up the inside, and unfortunately the Subaru ends up in the tyre bundle. Now we're going to go 3 wide again through another corner where you shouldn't be putting 3 cars, and the MX-5 comes out the best of the lot of them. But yeah, it was absolutely chaotic this this race. Good fun, certainly, but completely and utter chaos going on here. The Delta was leading the way from the MX-5. I mean, the problem was they're catching up to back markers, and often the back markers were having a really tough time, of necessarily knowing who's on which lap as they're fighting amongst themselves. You can't even necessarily see the cars behind you that are going. Cars bounced off walls, pinged themselves into all sorts of trouble, and because it is such a short lap around here, I think it's under 30 seconds around here, if you got yourself in a little bit of trouble, it's very easy to kind of end up going a lap down, and this lot here, they're all fighting amongst themselves, fighting each other. It's absolutely balmy, this sort of racing at the moment. Me as a commentator, I'm sitting here, I have no idea quite who's on which lap at the moment. I think the Lancia got himself in a bit of trouble across the curbs. That put the MX-5 up into the lead. I think at this stage the Civic may be in second place and the Corvette in third. That's about as good as I can give you on that one. Yeah, really very, very hard to try and keep track of everything that was going on around here. With the laps being so short. Again, there's another over 20 laps of racing around here. This Fiat going around the outside of the Subaru, can't quite make it stick. He's stuck on the outside of the roundabout, and eventually I think the Subaru probably climbed the curb a little bit too much, made himself slow getting off of that corner. That would allow the Fiat to get past. Pretty tough place to get an overtake done there, so well done to the Fiat. One of the more unusual vehicles racing around here was the there's a Ford Raptor going around. I love how most of the field are in these tiny little cars, and then there's one Raptor. I think there's a Jeep Wagoneer at some point as well around here. But the Raptor's so large, it's so long and so wide that it was incredibly difficult to get past it if you were fighting as this MX-5 is finding, trying to come around the roundabout too wide. There's only just about enough space for a Raptor and something else at this point in the racetrack, and then the leaders were catching them as well. The Raptor's up on two wheels across the curb. I think he smacks the wall on there. The MX-5 does eventually find a way past as they're now continuing to fight. The Raptor got good straight line speed. He's on the outside, trying to give space to the leaders as well as they're coming through to lap vehicles. It's, yeah, utter chaos here at Long Beach. It was certainly an interesting experience to go racing with. It was the MX-5 that would go on to take a victory here. Just a ridiculous race. This one. It was surprisingly entertaining, though, to be a part of. And our final race, that would go to the Catalonia school circuit, the longest track that we visited for this particular session. At the front, it was a Lancia Delta and a Fiat 131 that would get off the line quickest as they run down towards this next corner. The Fiat having a look up the inside. Again, most of us making it through the opening lap here. You can see the huge train of cars behind, all making it through relatively cleanly. The Fiat trying to be brave around the outside as the Lancia defends, but in doing that, they've all let the Honda Civic catch up, and a Lexus as well are joining in as we run through the chicane here towards this long. This is a really RC corner. This one here certainly can be an RC corner. Most of the cars would be flat out around here. Just some of them you struggle with a little bit of understeer. Very easy to end up out wide on the AstroTurf and so on. The Fiat, though, with a better run down here, is trying to get to the inside for turn one. This first corner, though, it's not a particularly big braking zone for these kind of cars, so it is a little tougher place to get overtakes done. However, the Fiat is far enough alongside and would move up to the lead. You've got to be careful. You've got to make sure that you get across enough, or that you're far enough ahead that you don't have to defend towards this next corner. Probably one of the better overtaking spots. And as it was, the Lancia was a little too far back. This was the group further back in the field that there's a lot of cars in a very small piece of tarmac. Three wide up towards turn one with the Subaru Brat trying to sneak on the inside. The Volvo here trying to go the long way around as they catch a camper mid-corner. The camper vans, of course, struggling with that grip, but with phenomenal acceleration. In the end, the Volvo just gets caught in the wrong place, stuck out wide, with the camper van struggling for traction. In the end, the camper van spins himself off the side of a Subaru Brat. The Volvo was, just in the wrong place at the wrong time for just this entire lap. Gets caught on the outside with a camper. Now he's got stuck on the outside trying to go around a Subaru Brat, and it's just not quite enough road. The MX-5 is going to go past as they're continuing to fight through here. Up ahead, this again, there were the odd, I think there are a few more shenanigans at this circuit, certainly, with a few cars having some adventures in these opening laps. The Volvo still trying to find a way past, trying not to get screwed over every time we went for an overtake, and this mid-pack continued to fight for many positions. There are big trains of cars going around this track. The Lotus here going to the inside at turn 1 manages to make the move stick. The Volvo still trying to go around the outside of cars at that particular part of the track. The Volkswagen here, though, had some great speed. Thought about going around the outside. Swaps, tries to kind of do the dummy, tries to dive up the inside of the Lotus. In the end, though, can't quite get it done. Ends up losing a little bit of time and fall back into the clutches of the vehicles behind. And still, there was many vehicles fighting up here. The Renault 5 now trying to look for a way past a Fiat 131. He's stuck on the outside, though, and that's not really, if you can keep it around here, if you can keep it around the outside, you'll be on the inside for the next corner, which is where you want to be, but it is a tough maneuver to make stick, and sure enough, the Renault just can't quite get it there this time around. And if you do try that maneuver, especially when you've got two cars behind you that are ready for any chance to overtake, you can often slow yourself down that little bit, and they can sneak past you. In this case, though, the Volvo and Civic are too busy fighting amongst themselves to really make the most of the Renault being a little bit slow off one corner, and sure enough, almost instantly the Renault 5 is back on the tail of the Fiat, this time coming up towards turn 1. The Renault is on the inside as they go, under braking, a little bit better a place to try and overtake, but as I said at the start, it's you can quite easily hold it around the outside, so it can be a little bit on the tougher side, but the Renault manages to make it stick this time. The Fiat thinks about trying to get up the inside. He does give a little bit of a nudge to the Renault, but it's nothing that he can do, as the Renault 5 would get away. The Volvo continued trying to find ways past vehicles, this time still trying to look for a way past the Civic up the outside for turn 1. If you defend your position through this first corner, it can be quite hard to do that. Fortunately enough for the Volvo this time around, the Civic, I think he just ran the curb ever so slightly, put the Civic sideways, made him a little bit slower off the corner. That allows the Volvo to stay alongside, and the Volvo can fire his car up the inside through the next corner, and finally the Volvo would get an overtake done cleanly that wasn't affected by somebody else's mistakes. At the front, though, things were a lot calmer for a Mini that would go on to take victory. Again, I mean, when I say a lot calmer, there's still lots of kind of traffic around to be worrying about and so on. It was less chaotic here at Catalonia, but still a relatively busy race, racing on these short circuits. That's going to happen. But yeah, again, quite good fun in all of it. Anyway, with the Mini taking victory. Further back, and well, they still continued to fight in the same way that they had for most of the race. On the final lap, the Renault, I think, was in third place. The Renault 5 here was clinging on as the Volvo got a very good drive out of that last corner. Unfortunately for the Volvo, just didn't quite have the straight line speed. He'd done everything trying to make his way through the field, didn't quite have enough straight line speed to do very much about the Renault 5 there. So short course racing had been chaotic. I think chaotic is probably the best word to use for this. It was quite a lot of fun, certainly. Was incredibly busy, especially at Long Beach, a very frantic track. That one, overtaking could be at times a little difficult, but definitely a sort of a different challenge. Unfortunately, things went a little bit wrong for me after the Rio race, when I restarted my Xbox to go set up the second lobby. My Forza just lost all of my data. Just everything went. So I had to frantically go and build another car. I built a Fiat in about 5 minutes. It was shockingly bad. I didn't build it the same way. It was terrible. So that's why you didn't see very much of my car. It's at Long Beach or it's at Catalonia, because it was nowhere near as good as the car I had to start with. And I apologise if I didn't get anybody into the lobbies who wanted to partake. I did the best I could. But yeah, things went quite badly wrong in this one. I still haven't got my data back either. It's kind of all buggered up. But yeah, can't do too much about that one. The short course racing, though, I would recommend. It was good fun, and these vehicles worked really well for it as well. They're not too ridiculously fast, and being four-wheel drive, most of them tended to be fairly decent on traction, fairly decent handling. Apart from the camper vans, they look balmy. But yeah, I would definitely recommend giving a go. Racing around these tiny tracks is really quite an experience, and certainly a decent challenge. Anyway, that is it for this week's Versus Community. The next one shall be held on Thursday, the 31st of December. We are going to go racing with B-class cars that have a rotary engine. Doesn't have to be a rotary engine from standard. If you can swap a rotary engine into a vehicle and keep it in B-class, then you are more than welcome to. If you would like to sign up and take part in that, then you can via our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and you can sign up in there. But that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.